Okay, guys, so we are going on to chapter 8. So last week we finished 7, which was an intro into experimental design. And so now chapter 8 is going to talk about reversal and multi-element designs. And then task list items it's going to cover is section 1, foundations, D, experimental design. So it's going to be D1, distinguishing between dependent and independent variables. D3, identify the defining features of single subject experimental designs. So example, individuals serve as their own control, repeated measures, prediction, verification, and replication. Didn't we already do this? D5, use single subject experimental design, reversal, multi-baseline, multi-element, and changing criterion. And D6, describe rationales for conducting comparative component and parametric analysis.
I think like in chapter 7, chapter 7 and 8 is like connected, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because it just discusses the same task list.
Yeah, I think you're right. And so last week, I think it was, where I told you guys about the outline or the exam outline. So experimental design is going to have 12 questions on the exam. So it's going to be 6% of your exam. So don't worry too much about it, but still know it pretty well. All right, so first it goes into reversal design. Who wants to try to explain what a reversal design is? So reversal tactics or reversal design is going to be that ABA design, repeated measures of behavior in a given setting during 3 consecutive phases. So remember we talked about the A is baseline. So baseline is when your independent variable is absent. And then B is going to be your independent variable is present. So B is going to be, now we're going to introduce our intervention. And then the other A, we're going to return to baseline. So that is one type of reversal design. So it's going to be A, B, A. So we're going to go baseline intervention back to baseline. Reintroducing the independent variable in the form of an ABAB design strengthens the reversal design tree tremendously. The ABAB design is the most straightforward and generally most powerful intra-subject design for demonstrating functional relations. Okay, so those are going to be
Lina, I'm sorry, what page are you reading? What page are you on?
We're on chapter 8, 171. We're talking about reversal designs. Okay. And then it goes into talking about different variations of AB design. So there is the AB design with repeated reversals. And that's the one that you guys are going to use most frequently to demonstrate a functional relation. And that one only has one reversal. And then you have your BAB, which is going to be reversal design can be used with target behaviors for which an initial baseline phase is inappropriate or not possible for ethical or practical reasons. So that will be a good one for us to kind of open up for discussion. So what do you guys think would be a good scenario that you can that you would use a BAB design? So no baseline, we're just going to go straight into intervention.
Any behavior that's dangerous, like SIB or aggression.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I agree with Celine.
Yeah, that's a good example. And it's always good to be able to think about those examples, because that's kind of the way that the test is formulated, where they're going to ask you which design would be most appropriate for this situation. So yes, that is a good example. Does Cooper give us any examples? It's on page 174, the BAB design. So after stable responding has been achieved during the initial treatment phase, the independent variable is withdrawn. If the behavior worsens in the absence of the independent variable, the A condition, the treatment variable is reintroduced. Okay, sorry guys. I'm just trying to see if they gave us another example, but yes, that will be a good one. Other situation in which a BAB or BABA design might be warranted include when treatment is already in place, when baseline levels of performance are obvious because the behavior has never been performed. So examples, exercising for many of us, practicing a musical instrument, reading, eating. So I guess a behavior where you know that they've never done it before, and so they're not going, even if you took a baseline, you know that they're not going to have the skill. So just going straight into teaching, like in this example, it's saying a musical instrument, reading, eating, all of those things might not require a baseline. Another situation will be when the behavior analyst has limited time in which to demonstrate practical and socially significant results. And then the last one is when the client or significant others want an intervention to begin immediately. So those are 1, 2, 3, 4 examples. You guys might want to like highlight it or like study those, so that you'll be able to answer a question like that. So you'll know when it is appropriate for the use of the BAB design, where you don't have a baseline, you just go straight into intervention. Okay, any questions so far, or anybody have anything to add, or any experiences where you just had to go straight into intervention, no baseline?
I'm sorry, Celine. I'm just a little lost on the book. Where do you find what you just read right now?
Yes, it's on page 174.
Okay.
It's the very last paragraph of the BAB
Okay.
design.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so then we can go into multiple treatment reversal design. Experiments that use the reversal design to compare the effects of 2 or more experimental conditions to baseline and or to one another are said to use a multiple treatment reversal design. Letters C, D, and so on denote when additional conditions were in effect during the study. Okay, so that one is going to look like ABA, CBC. So what do you guys think is happening there with the C? What is the C? So the A we know is baseline. The B is going to be your intervention. Your A goes back to baseline. Your C is going to be,
Another intervention.
yes, right? Another intervention. So you go back to baseline and then you put a new intervention. And then what is B?
Back to the first intervention, right?
Yeah,
Back
so it
to-
looks like for the example in the bottom on page 175, like the Kennedy and Sousa. So,
Where are you? The Kennedy
I
and
was, yeah, I was looking at Kennedy and Sousa. That's what it looks like their intervention is. Like the first intervention, they have music, and then they have to see it's video game, and then I think they go back and forth with C, C, D, C. I was just reading that.
oh yeah, that's a good one. So the two treatment conditions were music and a video game. So the B and the C are your two different treatment conditions.
So B is the first intervention, right?
Yes, so B is your music, and then your C is your video game. So if we look at the AB, it's baseline, and then they introduced music, and then they went back to baseline, and then they introduced video games, and then went back to music, and then went to video games, right? Is that what's happening?
Yeah, that's what it looks like it's happening.
Okay, yeah, so that's when you have multiple treatments going on at one time.
And then it says here on like page 75, like the final phases of the experiment is going to be CA, CA, CA. I think it's saying like which treatments would work better. So maybe like the final phase, like maybe final C works better. So they're probably like bouncing it back toward the baseline to what's it? See, video game baseline, the video game just to see if that if video game is great many significant changes on behavior, whatever.
Yeah,
To read that.
yeah, so it's explaining figure 8.5. So 8.5 would be on the next page. Okay, so now we can see the visual. So they go baseline, music, video game, music, video game, baseline, video game, baseline, video game. Oh my goodness, that's confusing. This sense of design encourages the experimenter to pursue in more dynamic fashion the solutions to problems of experimental control immediately upon their emergence. So I guess I should read the explanation of the figure. So following an initial baseline phase A, in which G off averaged 4 eye pokes per hour, the music condition, B was introduced and eye pokes decreased to a mean of 2.8 per hour. The video game C was decreased to a mean, the video game was implemented next and the eye pokes decreased further to 1.1 per hour. Measures obtained during the next two phases, a reintroduction of music, followed by a second phase of video games, replicated previous levels of responding under each condition. This BCBC portion of the experiment revealed a functional relation between video game condition and a lower frequency of eye pokes compared to music. The final phase of the experiment, CACAC, provided an experimental comparison of the video game and baseline. No treatment condition. Okay. Anybody have anything to add on that? Okay, so sequence effects are the effects on a subject's behavior in a given condition that are influenced by the subject's experience with a prior condition. So I think we talked a little bit about sequence effects. But sequence effects is you're basically being influenced by, so the behavior is changing because of your previous intervention. Does that make sense? Or do you guys have a better way of explaining sequence effects?
Can you repeat that? I'm sorry.
So, so like as you're going on, the behavior is changing because of your previous like intervention or your previous conditions. So they call that
So
sequence.
I'm sorry, what I understand is like, you got A, B, C, B, C, and then the last intervention become like your baseline for introduce the new intervention. So, and please correct me if I might misunderstanding. So when you have, okay, you have your baseline, then you have your first intervention. When this one is stable, this can become, you know, the starting point for introduce the next, I mean the C, because the B is already stable, then you introduce the C. So I understand wrong or I'm going the right, I don't know.
I don't know.
I'm not sure if I explained correctly.
Yeah, you might have a better explanation. I'm just like kind of rusty on this stuff since I don't really use all of these words as often, but I'm pretty sure they're saying that it's just saying that sometimes your intervention, like the previous intervention that you implemented or the previous phase, can have an influence on the next condition. So it's not always going to be like, because of this intervention, the behavior changed. It might have some like carryover effects, like, oh, well, I kind of caught on, or I kind of learned in the previous intervention what she wanted, or something like that. That's kind of how I understand sequencing effects.
Yes, I was looking at the big ABA exam study manual. Their ACA says the carryover effect or
Yeah.
alteration effect. So it's a carryover. And it's like what you're saying, saying the same thing. Like when you are using A, B, C, B, C design, you can't analyze the effects of the independent variable C on its own, because the independent variable C is always preceded by IVB. I want to say IV. IVC is impacted by the sequence of IVB coming before it. So basically what you're saying. So like it's been a C affects C because it was before B is before C. Does that make sense?
Yes.
how I'm
Carry over for the next. Okay, yeah.
Because
This
there's a
makes sense.
carryover effect.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so that can be a disadvantage of that particular design, right? Sorry, I'm looking through all of my notes. So there's 5 variations of reversal design. There's the repeated reversal, which is the one that we first talked about, the A, B, and you just keep going, intervention, baseline, or baseline, intervention, and you just keep doing that. So that's called a repeated reversal. And then you have your BAB. So that's the one where you start in your treatment phase. So that is one thing that you're going to want to remember about the BAB. That's the most important part, is just knowing that you start in treatment for BAB.
Yeah.
And it's you usually use that when you need treatment ASAP, or you already have some type of intervention in place. Maybe you got this client from another BCBA and they already had some type of intervention or something like that. So that will be a BAB. And then you have what we talked about, the multiple treatment design, where we're going to compare 2 or more IVs. So that's going to compare 2 or more interventions. And then you have the next one, which is going to be NCR reversal. The NCR reversal is non-contingent reinforcement reversal technique. And it can show that behavior change is the result of contingent reinforcement, not simply the presentation of or contact with stimulus event. A study by Bayer and Wolf, 1970, on the effects of teachers' social reinforcement on the cooperative play of preschool child provides an excellent example of an NCR reversal technique. Do we want to read all of that? Does anybody want to read it? The example? Okay, so for the NCR reversal, the NCR is serving as the control in, hold on, I don't know what I'm reading. Using NCR as a control condition to demonstrate a functional relation is oh my God, I can't say that word. Like an advantage when it is not possible or appropriate to eliminate completely the event or activity used as contingent reinforcement. So for example, Ladle, 1969, employed NCR as a control condition to reverse the effects of swimming as reinforcement for toothbrushing by children in a summer camp. In the contingent reinforcement condition, the campers could only go swimming if they had brushed their teeth in the NCR condition. Swimming was available. Oh, okay. In NCR condition, swimming was available whether or not toothbrushing occurred. The campers brushed their teeth more often in the contingent reinforcement condition. Okay, cool. I get it now. So who wants to tell me, or who can explain, first of all, most basic, what is a contingency? So this is a word that you're going to use a lot as a BCBA. So it's really important to be like very fluent on the explanation of what a contingency is.
It's isn't it an if then statement? Reinforcement is dependent on what you do, right? For example, if it's required for you to complete 10 math problems before reinforcement and you complete only 9, then you won't be reinforced, because there's that contingency there.
Yeah, perfect. It's what we use in ABA all the time. So it's kind of like a silent contract, like pretty much like, okay, if you do this, then you get this. So like she's saying the if then statement. So contingencies, we use them a lot in ABA because it's using reinforcement, right? So we're trying to increase some type of behavior. So if you do this, then this, and so it'll increase the likelihood of that behavior occurring in the future. In ABA, we also use what's called non-contingent reinforcement. So who wants to try to explain to us, like, let's say you're a BCBA and you're trying to explain this to your technician. So how can you explain what non-contingent reinforcement is?
It's reinforcement that isn't based on the delivery of the reinforcement immediately after the behavior. So it can be random. I've used NCR a lot with kids that require attention or have attention seeking behaviors. And I give them the attention before they seek the attention. I don't know if that
Yeah.
makes sense, but that's
Yeah,
how I
that's
use
perfect.
NCR all the time. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
that's
you,
perfect.
yeah, it's a great tool if you have a kid that seeks attention. And I put them on, I've actually done like baseline where I've collected like how long do they go before, like when they seek attention, like say it's 5 minutes, and then I tell somebody to give the attention at the 4-minute mark. So then it kind of heads off it, you know what I mean? So that's how I've used NCR in the field before.
Yes, that's a great example. Non-contingent attention for attention seekers. Perfect. Another example that I have used, non-contingent reinforcement was, let's say, hypothetical, a client engages in a lot of vocal stereotypy in the form of singing, right? So client sings a lot all day long. And then BCBA notices that when music is playing, client is calm and isn't engaging in singing behavior. So then we start providing music non-contingently. So whether she's singing or not, we're gonna play this music every 5 minutes or something like that. Just depending on, kind of like Jen said, we kind of want to see how long before she starts singing. So maybe she sings like every 7 minutes. So I'm like, all right, we're gonna provide her with music every 5, or something like that. So that's an example of non-contingent reinforcement. So basically what the NCR reversal is doing is it's demonstrating that reinforcement must be contingent on a response in order for it to be effective. Did anybody else get that, or have like a light bulb moment where you're like, oh, that makes so much sense? So basically, if it's non-contingent, they're not going to be as likely to engage in the behavior. So we're trying to prove that if we hold a contingency solid, it's going to either increase or decrease the behavior depending on what outcome you want. So that's a pretty cool one to use as
What I understand is like when you have a contingency reinforcement, it's going to depend based on the child perform the desired behavior. So when we are on non-contingency reinforcement, we're going to reinforce even though they perform or not perform the desired behavior, right?
Yes.
Okay, gotcha.
Yes, perfect. So what they were saying here in the example was, as a reinforcement for toothbrushing, they get to go swimming, right? So the contingency is if you brush your teeth, then you get to go swimming. And we want to prove that this is an effective intervention and that this is truly the reason why they have increased their toothbrushing. And so by doing that, we introduce that non-contingent condition where we just let them swim all day long. We don't even care if they brush their teeth or not. And so then we start to see the graph go down and nobody's brushing their teeth anymore because they're not being held to that contingency. So I don't know if that kind of helps to explain the NCR reversal technique. Okay, and then we have DRO reversal technique. DRO, DRI, and DRA. Okay, and so for this one, we're using the DRO as a control instead of baseline. It allows us to examine contingent reinforcement. Okay, so who has ever used a DRO before? Anybody? Jen says she's used a DRO.
I have, in a sense, yeah.
I did as well.
Okay. So an example of a DRO that I like to use is like let's say we want to decrease a stereotypy behavior because it is starting to cause harm on the child. So let's say child engages in high levels of tapping on surfaces all day long. And so we want to decrease it because mom is concerned because he might be injuring himself. And so you might start like a DRO for something like that, some type of stereotypy behavior. So you might do like a bracelet or a green and red sign that's telling you when you're in your like DRO time. So you might put a bracelet on or flip a green card or a red card or something like that and be like, okay, little friend, whenever we have our bracelet on, we're going to have calm body or something like that. And then if the client is able to make it for the amount of time that is determined or the BCBA has set, so it might be like 5 seconds. So if client is able to hold still for 5 seconds, then they're able to attain reinforcement. And so during reinforcement time, let's say he gets 30 seconds of reinforcement time. During reinforcement time, they're allowed to do whatever they want. He can flap or do whatever it was that he wanted to do. And that is his reinforcer or his reinforcement time. Then his timer goes off for reinforcement time. And then we're going to go back into our DRO condition. We're going to say, okay, little friend, when you have your bracelet on, or when the card is flipped to blah, blah, blah color, then we need to have calm body. And then he makes it again for those 5 seconds, boom, he's able to attain reinforcement. So for 30 seconds, he's able to do whatever he wants. And then we're gonna go back to DRO condition. So that's kind of how I like to think about it, or I always wanna put it into real life examples so that it can make more sense, like what this technique is looking like. So hopefully that helped you guys a little bit. For those of you who have done a DRO before, does it kind of look similar to what I was explaining, or do you guys have a different scenario in which you used DRO? Okay, so with the DRO reversal technique, the control condition consists of delivering the event suspected of functioning as reinforcement following the omission of any behavior other than the target behavior. So one thing about DROs that's kind of a downfall or a disadvantage of a DRO is that sometimes you might be reinforcing another maladaptive behavior because during the DRO, you're only focusing on this one behavior. So I don't know if any of you guys have ever heard that, but that is something to remember about DROs.
I have a question, like, what do you think about the ethics of removing these procedures?
Of removing the DRO
Yeah, like,
or
I don't know,
removing a stereotypy.
no, not, well, I mean, that's a different conversation.
Yeah, because
This,
that's a conversation too.
yeah, so, no, I mean, like, if you've implemented like a DRO and like, what are you gonna do? Experiment how to reverse it? I don't know, I just find that, like, in real life, is that even possible? Have you ever did it?
I personally, I'm trying to make sense of it to see like how you can reverse it.
Right, that's what I'm trying to figure out. Like, how can you reverse it? Yeah, I don't know. I like taking these classes like with Jessica likewise, and she says there's a lot of stuff in Cooper that
Doesn't really happen.
right, is like it's hard to relate to real life, and I feel that way too a lot when I read it. So
Yeah,
just throwing it out
definitely.
there.
Because I'm telling you guys, all of these like designs and all of this stuff, like I do not use this every single day, like maybe ABAB design, but all of this other stuff is just I guess extra ABA jargon that you need to know in case you need to or want to use it. But yeah, I would never really think of a scenario in which you would reverse a DRO. But let's see, figure 8.7 is showing us a reversal design using a DRI control technique. So this one is based on social control of form diversity and the emergence of new forms of children's block building. Okay, so where's the example for that one or the explanation? Eight point seven. Did I see it anywhere? Okay, let's see right here on 178. So for example, Reynolds and Risley, 1968, used contingent teacher attention to increase the frequency of talking in a 4-year-old girl enrolled in a preschool program for disadvantaged children. After a period of teacher attention contingent on verbalization, in which the girl's talking increased from a baseline average of 11% of the intervals observed to 75%, a DRO condition was implemented during which the teacher attended to the girl for any behavior except talking. During the 6 days of DRO, the girl's verbalization dropped to 6%. Teacher attention was then delivered contingent on talking, and the girl's verbalization immediately increased to an average of 51%. I don't know. I feel like maybe, does anybody else have an example of a DRO reversal technique? So I'm trying to think if, like, in my example, would you consider that a DRO reversal? Because you put the bracelet on, they get to reinforcement. And then you put the bracelet on again, they get to reinforcement. You put the bracelet on again, they get to reinforcement. And then maybe in that example, you would say, okay, today we're not gonna do the DRO at all. And then see if he engages in behavior. Is that like, I'm just trying to put it in real life to
Yeah,
make
that's
it.
what I'm saying. It's hard for me to like conceptualize that in real
Yeah.
life. Like I would never, I mean, I've used like a break card, for instance, for DRO, right? And then you give them the break every single time. So that would be, you would put it on a schedule, and then you would do it intermittently to kind of phase it out, right? But like I would never ever deny access for a kid to use a break card in school, right? I mean, you're
Yeah.
teaching them that skill. Why would you take that skill away from them? You know what I mean? I mean, I've
Yeah.
had kids age out of things, or or they get like too old for the token board type of thing, but I don't know where I would ever use like a reversal technique. I don't know. I'm just
So, yeah.
confused, I guess.
Look, here it says, in spite of its strength as a tool for analysis, the reversal design entails some potential scientific and social disadvantages that should be considered prior to use. The considerations are of two types: irreversibility, which affects the scientific utility of the design, and the social, educational, and ethical concerns related to withdrawing a seemingly effective intervention. Yeah, so perfect, exactly. And that's why it's good to use your scientific brain, or your science hat, and use your philosophical doubt, right? You're like, well, that might not be like right or effective, or an ethical way of going about this. So what I always tell my RBTs, I'm like, if it doesn't feel right, it probably isn't. So I feel like you should program the same way. So if it wouldn't be ethical, or it doesn't feel right to withdraw intervention just to prove that my intervention is effective, like, who am I trying to prove it to? I don't know. But yeah, that's good. It's good to always think about all of the different possibilities and advantages and disadvantages of the different designs. And then maybe you're like, okay, well, my DRO is effective, obviously, based off of the graph, so no need to withdraw or reverse. Maybe just compare it back to your baseline instead, and be like, based off of baseline scores, I'm showing that this DRO is indeed effective. So that just goes back to ABAB design again. Okay,
Yeah, I feel
so,
like we're thinking the same way, like, because we work in the field. Like I just can't even imagine some of these
yeah.
things that are proposed in here.
Yeah, so like I said, there are only 12 questions on the exam on experimental design. So maybe just know what all of the what they are, and just don't get too stressed out about them. So as long as you know, repeated reversal is the one that we use the most, ABABAB, and that the BAB starts with intervention, or starts with treatment. And then the multiple treatment design is where we're comparing two interventions. And then your NCR reversal is your NCR is basically proving that your contingency is what is changing the behavior. And then your DRO reversal, it allows us to examine contingent reinforcement. And just don't go past that. Like, don't go any deeper than that. Know that, and then just move on. Okay, so next Anybody have any questions or anything to add on our 5 different types of reversal designs?
Something that I want to read here on the manual, like past the big stem, that say here about the DRO reversal design is the ethic devil warning is say like the disadvantage is irreversibility, and the ethic warning is ethical issue as well as social and educational issue can be arise when you remove an effective intervention. So basically like the same that you guys are saying. So we need to go first to the ethic code and see if implementing or removing or going to reversal will be effective or not. Yeah.
Yes, perfect. And then it also talks about that in Cooper on page 180. It tells us ethical concerns. So a serious ethical concern must be addressed when the use of reversal design is considered for evaluating a treatment for self-injurious or dangerous behaviors. With mild self-injurious or aggressive behaviors, short reversal phases consisting of 1 or 2 baseline probes can sometimes provide empirical evidence needed to reveal a functional relation. So basically, for sure, if it's like some type of SIB or dangerous behavior, we are not going to implement a reversal because that is just not safe for your client or your staff or whatever. So just for the sake of experimenting, I'm gonna withdraw this intervention, and then everybody gets beat up or whatever the case may be. But I like that you guys are all thinking about the ethics, because the exam is also really like ethics based. And then you also want to really hone into the new topic that they have on the ethics code about assent and consent. Have you guys gone into those subjects where at the end of the day, the intervention or whatever, the client is always going to have the final say? So you want to make sure that you have consent and assent. And so just really hone into those. Maybe like listen to some podcasts, like do a CEU on assent and consent, because those are the newest additions to the ethics code. And a lot of the exam might focus on something like that. So just knowing that you always want to take into consideration ethics, and then your client is always going to come first. Okay, we started at 7, so I will pause the recording.